No.
Be nice. Do unto others. Good morning, everyone. This is a real pleasure. When I was contacted and asked if I would introduce our county executive, I said I'd love to. I must say that 4 years ago, 15 days ago, the citizens of Prince George's County elected the right person. Amen. They've reaffirmed that as recently as November the 4th. I think everyone in this room knows that Prince George's, I stand corrected, old habits die hard. Prince George's County is certainly on the move. And most of the credit goes to the wonderful leadership we've had from Rashern Baker. He's our friend. You know how I feel about him personally. You know how educators feel about him. The floor is his. Welcome, Mr. County Executive.
Why is everyone leaving? I must say I'm happy that you are going to the table because you had that gavel like you're getting ready to. How's everyone doing this afternoon? Great, you look terrific. I'm Rashern Baker, and I am the county executive, and I came here and I think, Calvin, do you have those applications? Yeah. So we're now recruiting for new teachers. So everyone here, we're gonna sign you up, send you back to the classroom. We could use your help. No, it is a pleasure. I heard Segun Eubanks was here. How did he do? Wasn't he good? I think he's doing a great job as the chair of our school board, and I think Dr. Maxwell is doing a great job also. You know, Carl and I go way back to when I was in the House of Delegates, so it is always a pleasure to have someone who took a chance on me. I hate to admit it, it's almost 25 years ago. I had hair, it was black. I was a good-looking guy then, I'm telling you. I really was, you know. But the 4 years of this office had worn on me. I'd tell you a funny story. My kids, you know, who are now, you know, they were in the school system when I ran, and Carl knows that. All three were in the public school. Well, two were in the public, one was in the public school system when I first ran. The baby had just been born. But they all went through the public school system. And they saw pictures of me when I was elected, and they said, man, you were good looking then. I said, yes, you have done this, and the county has done this. But it is good to see and be introduced by people who actually took a chance on me. And many of you in this room remember when I first ran and you were active in education issues and allowed me to go to Annapolis and serve in the House of Delegates. And many of you, I hope, who live in Prince George's County actually voted for me to come back to this office. If you didn't, shame on you. But, you know, the philosophy I had has not changed. One of the reasons why this is an organization and a group that I, you know, put on the calendar each year to speak to, and I mean, I'm glad that you keep inviting me, so I know I've done something wrong when you disinvite me, is because it really is so important to those of us in Prince George's County. And quite honestly, before I started giving a list of what we've done in the county is, for me personally, you're the reasons why I ran for office. I tell this story a lot, and I probably tell it so much that nobody wants to hear it anymore. But I tell the story about the fact that, you know, how I came about to want to run for office. And the fact that I was, you know, probably 16 years old, maybe 17, never a good student, repeated the first and second grade, so I was always 2 years older than my peers, and really had no direction in terms of what I significantly wanted to do with my life, other than my parents were determined that I would go to college so I would be a good citizen and be productive. My dad was in the military, traveled a lot. And one of the last duty stations before, when we came back to the States, was Beverly, Massachusetts. And I was in a place where we were the only black family in that little town at that time. We hadn't been in the States in 4 years. I lived in Okinawa, Japan. And it was, so there was nothing in there that says, hey, you're going to get your life together, other than I was afraid of my dad. And my biggest thrills were football. That's what I cared about, playing football. And, I figured I'd go into the Army, do something like that. Really, nothing special. But I had a teacher, Miss Lutz, who knew that I struggled in reading, and she was my English teacher, and I thought she was the meanest lady in the entire world, because she would not let me play football because I needed at least a C to play. And at that time, believe it or not, I was, the same height I am now, but heavier, and I was really good. So I knew I was going to play in the NFL, and she was holding me back from my dream. And she required me to come to her class after school and be tutored by her. And I'm like, I ain't have time for that. I need to be on the football field, being the star that I'm going to be. And part of the requirement was that she said that I had to complete, because I had turned in a book report and it was just awful. And she said, you got to do another one. And I hated that lady. And she said, I'm going to give you 2 books to choose from. And she gave me Wuthering Heights. I was like, I ain't reading that. And she gave me Black Boy. I didn't know Richard Wright. I didn't know Black Boy. I knew Wuthering Heights was that thick. I knew Black Boy was that thick. And I ain't no fool. I picked Black Boy. And it completely changed my life. When I say completely, I mean completely. And I never thought it was her, and I actually ended up reading Wuthering Heights afterwards. But what it did was, and what she wanted to do was to touch something in me that I couldn't see. That directionless child had a purpose, that life has a purpose. That the blessings that I had growing up with 2 parents who, no matter what I did, always believed in me. That the blessings that I had of teachers who cared enough, not simply because she could have given me a C and said, go on, but she cared enough to want me not just to be a football player, but to be a thinking adult, to be a contributing member of society. And by giving me that book, it opened my eyes. And it made me want to do, actually, and I tell my kids this, it made me embarrassed and ashamed of the fact that I had just taken for granted that everybody lives the way that I live, that everybody has the opportunities that I have, that everybody has the teachers that I had. It made me ashamed that I had not taken advantage all these years of people who had sweated over me, I mean teachers, people in the cafeterias, people on the bus, that they were pouring into me everything they had to be a good member of society. And it made me ashamed. And it made me want to do something with my life. And that propelled me from that day to this day. I never forget that. So when you hear me talk about the things we want to do in this county, when I list the things that we have for development, when I talk about the destination resort we're going to build, which is $1 billion in National Harbor, when I talk about the new hospital, $650 million we're going to spend for a regional healthcare facility in Largo, When I talk about New Carrollton and development you're going to see there with a new building for Department of Housing and Community Development. And when I talk about Laurel Mall and the things that we're doing there in Harris Teeters, all of that is not about development. All of that is about getting resources that we pour back into our classes, that we pour back into the education system that transfers into the next generation of adults. So when we talk about these things, when I talk about moving our crime numbers down, it is about more people having the opportunities that we have. You know, John Kennedy used to quote it when he was giving a speech one time, and I used this the other day, and he said, and he was quoting Jefferson, and he said that if a society is to remain free, it cannot remain ignorant. But he then went on, as I said to some young people, to say, the work that you have done and the work that you continue to do and the work that Miss Lutz did for me was not simply so that I could have an advantage in the economic struggle of life. It was so that I would use those things that were taught to me to make this society better, to make your lives better, to pay back what you have poured into each and every person you touch. And I think those of us who are in these positions should never forget it. It is not bad to have a little bit of guilt. It is not bad for your former students to say, you know what, maybe I didn't give everything that I could give when I was in your classroom. But because you changed my life, I have never seen Miss Lutz again. We moved the next year, but I've never forgotten her. It is because of her that you and I, and people who are with me will tell you, this is the honest to God truth. I am never without a book. I read constantly. I always have a book. In fact, I've got a thick book on Roosevelt that's killing me right now. But I came here really just to say thank you and to talk about really what we're doing and the contributions you make. Because I hope the next person who holds this office will come here and say, when we talk about where we're moving in terms of the county, that it's really thank you. As I said, when we talk about the things that are happening, the fact that, you know, crime in Prince George's County is at an all-time low, almost 3 decades low. Last year, we reduced homicides by 12%, which was based on the year before reducing homicides by 33%. This year, we're on pace to reduce last year's numbers by 7 or 8%. Overall crime in the county is down to its lowest number. When I took office, you know, people around the region talked about Prince George's County not in such a good way. I often tell this story also that, you know, when I came in here, you know, because I ran for the office, that's just the other thing that reading those books helped me. I didn't know she was undergirding me for life's journey. I ran for this office 3 times, so it was unusual, if I could deviate just for a second, it was unusual this time when I got all, you know, ready to run, and there wasn't an opponent in the primary, and I was like, oh my God. Everybody get out and vote, because write-in's gonna beat me. But, you know, those readings, those journals, those books, that education all helped in the struggle to get here. And so when I took office, a lot of people said, you know, after trying 3 times, you finally get it, and the county is really in a bad place. It really wasn't in a bad place. It was in a challenging place. It was in a challenging place. Getting people to think about Prince George's County differently. And so I would often go around in those beginning stages and do pretty much what my dad would say about me, which was, as people gave him a report on how his child was doing in school, he would say, you know, he's going to be great. When all the indicators said otherwise. I went around saying Prince George's County is the economic engine of the Washington region, and I dare say the state. And I said it with the same convictions that many of you said to your students, you're gonna make it. You're gonna do great things. Because the more these students believe and the more we push them to excel, the better they do. The more we said to residents and workers of this county, we are it. We're the place to be. Everybody wants to come here. The more you start believing it, the more those beliefs come action. So what happened? We put together $50 million economic development incentive fund to entice business to come here. And within the first 4 years, look at the development that's taking place. As I said, a destination resort casino in the southern part of the county, Tanger Outlet in the southern part of the county. When I came into office, Harris Teeter said they would never come to Prince George's County. That's what the guy said in the meeting as I was chasing him down the hallway in Las Vegas. Please come to my county. He said, never. They just opened one up in Laurel. They're going to open another one up here. We've got a Whole Foods. We've got development going on. But what the message is, if you look throughout this 500 square miles of this county, you see things on the rise. People throughout the state believe it. The other thing, and I'll close with this because I think is important, is we talked about healthcare. Because as many of you know, working in education, many of the problems, just like I had, I failed first and second grade because I couldn't read. It didn't dawn on anybody, and especially I have young parents, and I had a dad that was away and a young mother with four kids, that maybe we ought to have his eyes checked. It didn't, it wasn't that she, if somebody would have said it to her, she would have done it. But it never dawned on them until one day in school they said, why are you keep moving to the front? Or why is he misbehaving in the back? I couldn't see. And the teacher said, you know what, they actually do eye exams in school. Eye exams in school, hearing exams in school, for that very reason. So healthcare is important. And I remembered that, and it is why in this administration we had public safety, education, public safety, and health. Because the health of our students and our population has an impact on the first two, on education and on public safety. And I said Prince George's County, as the second largest jurisdiction in this state, has to be a player on how we redo health and access to quality health in this state. And that we're going to elevate that. And we've done it. The regional healthcare facility, not hospital, not building a new hospital, we're building a regional healthcare facility for Prince George's County in the southern half of the state. We're connecting healthcare to every part of our hospitals in this county and our clinics. But at the same time, we have actually entered into an agreement where we're now providing health care to the school system without having them take it from its budget. So that children, when I came in the office, we had a mobile health van for dental and for checkups. We had one. Now we have 8 that go throughout. In fact, the dental unit actually will go to every single school in the county. So we wanted to do that. I will close on this. So one of the signature initiatives that I have had in the administration is what we call our Transforming Neighborhoods Initiative. Because, when I was a little boy and when I finally decided I wanted to do something with my life, which is where Ms. Lutz came in, the other person I had a conversation was my dad. I actually didn't have a conversation. We were watching TV, and I was 17, very, very know-it-all 17-year-old. And I was watching the local elected official on TV, and I'm railing at this guy. I'm like, he's a bum. 20 years he's been in office, nothing's changed in our community. And my dad let me go on for a little while, which was surprising. And he finally said, if you think you can do better, if you, Rashawn Leslie Baker III, think you can do better, run for office. And I said, that's what I'm going to do. I'll show you. I'm going to run for office. I'm going to prove that you don't have to give up your flight. Of course, now, I didn't know nothing about no office. I didn't know, I was just talking. And what he wanted was, and I wish he was here to see this, he never really cared that I run for office. What he wanted his children to understand is that you need to be productive in society. Good citizens, that's really the only thing he wanted. Good citizens that when people ran into them, they would say, those are well-mannered, good people. But it propelled me, and I bring that story up because one of the things I remember from that conversation with my dad was the fact the community had not changed. And if nothing else, whether I was given 4 years or 8 years in this office, I was not going to let that happen in Prince George's County. So when we talk about our Transforming Neighborhoods initiative, it really came about from our crime initiative when we saw crime in the first year of the Baker administration went up slightly. And we got together with the state's attorney, the sheriff, and we reduced it. You know, we set a plan up to reduce crime. Well, in the next year, it went down. And we got this report from the police department that said what they did to reduce crime. And so I had this conversation with, and they targeted 5 areas in the police to reduce crime, 5 areas. And I had a conversation with our county administrator at the time, Brad Seaman, and I said, well, why can't the rest of my government respond the way that the police and fire do to emergencies? Why can't that be the norm? If we know that it worked in those areas and reduced crime, why can't that work throughout the government? And from that conversation, he came up with our Transforming Neighborhoods, which are 6 areas in the county that have challenges. Not just in public safety, because everyone talks about public safety, but school dropout, absenteeism, that we factor, health disparities, lack of job opportunities, lack of access to transportation, all of the things that go to quality of life. We looked throughout the county in these 6 areas, and we said, what can we do to reduce that? And we came up with Transforming Neighborhoods Initiative, where we targeted those 6 areas, and to make sure that the county executive would never forget that we needed a report on them, we had 5 or 4 deputy county administrators and 2 assistants, and we said, guess what? Since I have to see you every Monday, you are now in charge of those areas. These challenging areas you are now many county executives in there, so you have access to everything, health, our transportation department, whatever it is, to change those areas. We instituted that, and if you look at some of those areas like Oxon Hill Glass Manor, the response time in terms of not just police, but in terms of potholes, in terms of street lights, has improved. So we're very proud of that. I've talked way too long, but thank you. You've been a very patient audience. God bless you.
We have time for maybe 1 or 2 questions. I know as retirees, would anyone like to ask them about how you feel about us?
Come back. We need you. No, I think this is just, I think you're great. And I love the fact, and I do mean this sincerely, that you come back and you have an interest in what's going on in Prince George's County. And so, as long as I'm county executive, I hope you will invite me back. Yes, ma'am.
I still work for the school system. I'm retired 10 years, but still work every day because I have a child to get through college.
Great.
So I'm still one of those people that subs and does testing and things. And
Terrific.
I live in Greenbelt. I just want to tell you that for years, everyone said I would never send my kid to the local schools in Greenbelt. They either be in a magnet school or they're in private school. Now everybody wants to be back in the local schools. We have people moving into Greenbelt to go
That's
to
right.
the schools. I hear this in lots of neighborhoods. They're back to the neighborhood schools. They have confidence in the schools, confidence in the leadership. So I thank you for that. And maybe you hear all the chatter. Some people don't know you work for the school system. You hear all the chatter in the grocery store and then you hear it in school. So we have happy teachers and happy parents. So I thank you for that.
Thank you. No, thank you for coming back. You know, that is a terrific comment. I mean, I had, you know, as I said, all three of my children, our children, my wife and I's children, went through our public school system. And it really was, you know, it was my wife. You know, her thing was she went to public schools, our kids are going to go there. And they're going to go to the neighborhood schools. And, you know, when we had challenges with the middle child, I was like, well, honey, you know what? Maybe we ought to, you know, send that one somewhere else. She says, no. At the time, I was a delegate, and she reminded me, she said, you know what? If there are challenges at that local school, and you're an elected official, and it's your child that's having challenges, I bet you'll fix it fast. I was like, you're right. But, you know, no, thank you for your work, and thank you. I'll end with this, because I see lunch coming. We're going to actually grab one of those as we go. But, you know, the other night, or last night, they talked about Suitland High School and the incident that happened at Suitland High School. And all of my children are graduates of Suitland High School. Not because we had to, but it was a choice. And it reminded me, one of the things that I took away from that, because my son went there years ago, and when he was a student there, they had a riot. You know, the school all over had a big, huge fight. And I remember I was working in DC at the time, and he called me, you know, only as my child would, and he said, Dad, come get me, there's a riot here. I said, where are you? He said, I'm in a room locked. I'm in a room locked up, one of these classrooms where a teacher locked the door, because kids were roaming the hallway. Literally, they were doing that. And I was like, what the heck? And I, you know, of course, he's like, come get me now. Don't wait for the police. And I ran and got him. And like most parents, my immediate thought was, I'm pulling my child out of here immediately. But I was married to Krista Beverly, who is my lovely wife, and she said, and I wasn't in office anymore, so I said, I ain't in office, I'm pulling my child out. She said, yeah, but you know people. So what we're going to do is be more active in the PTA. I'm laughing because I thought, are you nuts? Be more active in the PTA and demand that we get a new principal in there. I bring the story up because at that time, people were afraid and students were afraid. And the conversation, if you'd ask my son, was like, get me out. He was like, I'm ready to leave anyway. Get me out of here. The reaction of the kids yesterday it was unfortunate, not unfortunate, but it was horrific what happened with those young people in fighting. But the kids that they interviewed said, overall, we feel safe in the schools. That wouldn't have been the case had you interviewed the kids back there when my son was there. If we were not beginning to change the culture, and it's going to take time, it's going to take work, it's going to take your ideas, because you really know. I mean, you are great resources for us. And if we don't use you, shame on us, because my thing is I'm using everybody. But those kids that we, by and large, feel safe, that's what we want throughout. Safety first. People should be safe sending their kids to our school. Quality of instruction and support. And not just support, and I say this, and I would say it in any crowd, not just support of those in front of the classroom, but support throughout. From everyone who has anything that touches that school system. So the meetings that we'll have and the commitment I'll make to you, and I think you've seen it, there's a sense of urgency about making sure that our kids get a quality education at this place. It's great. And it hasn't left because my 3 children have graduated from Prince George's County school system. It is because, and I hope and I remind them that they feel as guilty as I do, that they left that school system. Each one of them got a scholarship. The oldest one went on to get a master's. And the middle one just graduated, and the youngest one is on scholarship in New York. That all of that is not because of the 2 parents that they have in their household. All of that is because of the foundation that was laid in the classrooms and the teachers that interacted with them probably more than I did in critical stages of their life. And for that, I thank you very much. Bye-bye. Thank you.